Hello everybody, this is X here, and welcome back to another World of Warcraft Top 10 Countdown. This time we are going to be looking at some of the best and worst features ever to go into the World of Warcraft. Number 10. Legendaries. Now back in the day, these would be items for the elite of World of Warcraft. If someone had this, you knew they were a badass. Back in the day, they were made from parts which you will obtain yourself through raids and other instances and other things such as that. When you saw someone with one of these, you knew they were badass and you didn't want to mess with them. The bad side in Mists Pandaria was that a raid group could be there just for the benefit of one person looking to get a certain tablet or item for a quest line. And the same in Mists Pandaria, anyone could obtain the legendary cloak, which had its benefits and also had its disappointments. Anyway, the good points about this, anyone could obtain through their own effort, which is awesome. Anybody who spends time in the game deserves to have a legendary item. They do have a sizable power increase and will not be replaced soon, even in Warlords of Draenor at level 100. Cloaks did not dump all over old legendaries like some others has. As say if it was a weapon, it would annihilate all the ones that are in the game and make it pointless having an heirloom, for example, if you had one. And they're just awesome items to have and they look amazing on your back. The bad thing is, these are required for Warlords of Draenor heroic raids, which makes some people, means they can't do it if they didn't get a legendary, unless they complete the Warlords of Draenor legendary quest line. So it's difficult if you have alt accounts, as they might not have enough time to obtain a legendary. But like I said, in Warlords of Draenor, you can obtain the legendary ring, which does make it so anybody can do heroic raids. Number 9. Flexible raids. Now this was introduced a while to fix the one-man short problem, when you would be basically looking for a group and you would be wanting to do a 10-man and you only had 8 or 9 people. Using this, you do that. You could do a 10-man raid with 9 and it would scale to the amount of people that you had. And it was used also as a gap between LFR quality and regular raid quality. The good thing about this is you can drop in and drop out stars, so you don't need to wait for a group, which makes it a lot easier to get into and enjoy. In my personal opinion, this should have been instant vanilla, as this is an absolutely fantastic way to get into a group and experience a raid in basically any amount of people as you want. Also, it does have a fixed difficulty gap and it allows guilds to spend time together with their guild mates. There's also no hassle and no obligations, as you can just drop in and drop out at any time. The bad point is it did bring in too many options for raiding, as they now have LFR, heroic, normal, flexible and now mythic. So it can cause an issue using, obviously the level requirements are going to go up and up and up depending on which one you use. And it can slow down less experienced players. Number 8. Removing attunements. Now these things were required in order to access many of the raids and dungeons which you can access today freely. They involved a lot of complicated quest lines to get the key, which could be seen as a rite of passage through lesser raid content to prove you're worthy for the 25-man version. Some people liked it due to the fact that you could learn about the raid before going full pelt. The good point about this is it encourages you to do the older content in the game in order to unlock the new, which is great. And also it gets rid of noobs wanting to be boosted through the ultimate raid, which is awesome. And using that, it does keep the pros together and makes the content absolutely great to play, and just an overall better feeling. The only problem with this is it has acted as a wall, as some people who are unable to do the quests were unable to do the raids. So all the newbies will get stuck in a Karazhan while the big girls should run well, and it's not really fair, to be honest. Casuals don't have really time to do all the requirements to get into these major raids and cannot get all the achievements, so it spent a lot more time getting into the harder raids, which kind of sucked. Number 7. Dailies. Now these were introduced in the Burning Crusade and made infamous at the start of Mists Pandaria, since they were infected into the game hard. There were so many dailies, it is not even funny how many there are. Some of them you have to do in order to get into raids and also get geared to do raids. The good point about this is it's good for people who love to do quests and just love to explore the map, or if you like the quests in general, you can just do it for the money, as the money and reputation you do get is pretty good. And it is easy content to produce for Blizzard, as they could just shoot out a daily quest which can be easily repeated. Also, a bad thing about this is some of them can be really dull, and there is now stigma surrounding them due to Mr. Pandora, as they were used so heavily in that. Some of them make the players feel lazy, and it's just a cheap way to go and gear. Some people hate them now, but can be good, and they can be eventually become good again, like on the Timeless Isle, which was amazing. Number 6. LFD. Now this was introduced in Wrath, and it makes it a hell of a lot easier to find a dungeon. It was thought to be a godsend by most players, and could be either good or bad depending on how you look at it. Possibility you could be matched up with strangers, which can get a bit moody and angry if one small mistake is made or you wipe the dungeon. And most time you go into a dungeon and there's some people who think they're, all that. You do one single mistake and you get kicked, or they'll just leave, which is kind of a dick move. So yeah, and it's just the same as what I just said. If you get a wipe and it's your fault, then you don't just go, oh, okay, that's no problem, let's try again. They all just throw a big spaz. No good. So the good thing about this is that you spend less time looking for a group instead of, because back in the olden days you had to just sit and spam in the chat in order to find a group. And it's also a good chance that people queue for the correct roles, because you have to obviously select the role. So if somebody that you chatting to says, oh yeah, I can be a healer and not, or a tank, then you're kind of going to get wrecked. So that makes less room for error on their part. And it actually makes people do the jobs that they're supposed to do as well. And of course, item level was great in order to stop people getting carried through dungeons if they didn't have the right gear. So bad points, it did cripple the social aspect of WoW, as people don't really talk in dungeons, or if they do, they're normally moaning. People expect the dungeons to be easy. Like some people who I've been into a dungeon with, they wipe once and they go, oh, this is too hard, and leave. It's just, why? It's like less emotion really goes into the game, as you're basically going through a maze, so it can make the game a little less good. Number 5. The Cataclysm revamp. Now this is a complete revamp of most of the 1 to 60 zones in Azeroth, each being completely altered in some way or another. So there was a lot of good points about this. There was a significant improvement to gameplay, as you would no longer get abandoned in the middle of quest lines and have nowhere to go. There was a slight issue though, as if you, once you did get to the end of a quest line, you may have a trouble finding other quests. Some of them did cut off rather suddenly. But it also added a lot more storylines for people to follow, and it also fixed the leveling, and it also made it a lot smoother to do quests that carried on from each other before moving out of the zone to somewhere else. The only thing it did sort of like streamline the game, where there was no sense of really adventure or exploring. You just had to go from one place to another, to another, to another. You're basically along for a ride. And Thousand Needles was completely wrecked by this update. It is now completely water, where you have to go on pillars, and it's just terrible. Some zones were done too much, revamped too much, like the Thousand Needles, and others weren't even touched. What the hell? Number 4. Transmogs. Now these were amazing update brought into WoW, which put a lot less pressure on artists to create great looking gear in new expansions. If everyone is using older gear, why would you make epic looking gear for the new expansion, right? As loads of people use like older raid gear, which does look pretty awesome, I'm not gonna lie. A lot of the new gear looks like too serious, where just using primal colours, or it's just dark for World of Warcraft. Most players prefer armour that's got really cool effects, like, I don't know, lightning, or it glows, or the helmet's got antlers coming out of it. It's just, you need something that looks epic. A good point about this is it adds a dress-up function for players who really cared what their character actually looks like, so you can make all matching outfits, and so on and so forth. Some armour has also been brought back into fashion, some really old armour, and it makes players stand out. The only bad point about this is that it removed the aspect of that guy is epic feeling while standing in cities, as anybody can transmog anything into anything else. So basically, people can stand wearing really stupid armour, maxed transmogged. So you basically could have level 100 gear and then have it transmogged into level 1 gear. It would make you look pretty badass when someone tries to kill you and then you shank them to hell. Number 3. Boosted level 90s. They're in prep for Warlords of Draenor. With pre-purchase, you did get a free level 90 upgrade, so you could just quickly jump into the game. But they also introduced a way that you could buy level 90s as well for, in my country, £40 each. Basically, you would create a character, buy the boost, choose that character, and then it would boost it straight up to level 90 with no work. So basically, you could get 10 level 90s with no effort. Basically that. So I suppose the good point side, it lets older players just jump straight back into the newer content if they've been away for a while and don't have a max character. It gives them a straight player to use. The bad point is that it says that it plasters on leveling sucks. Because if you can just boost to level 90, why would you spend the time on leveling up? MMO games like World of Warcraft are complex and noobs can get overwhelmed if they have a level 90 straight away, which can ruin the game for such in the aspect of raids and dungeons. As I just said, it's best seen in raids today, as there are loads of people with boosted level 90s that suck. So yeah, it's a dangerous step for World of Warcraft as it is starting to introduce microtransactions, but hopefully they won't take it too far as they're giving us level 100s. That would really suck bollocks. Number 2. Mists of Pandaria. Now this was an expansion that was draped in all sorts of history and great lore, but was this really necessary, or was it just put there to sell the expansion? Some good points about this is it was a great break from the expansions which previously would have been led by villains such as like in Cataclysm and Wrath, where we had to face Deathwing and the Lich King. It has a lot of interesting storylines, and of course including the Siege of Orgrimmar, in which we have to take down Goresh Hellscream, which was awesome. And also it was a big surprise as no one actually saw this update coming. So it was really cool when it did actually get released. Raids were really, really good. A lot of good mechanics and really made you have to focus on the game in order to do them. And there was a load of patches as well. It was just a great time for WoW. The only bad point about this is that people actually did quit because of this expansion, as it had like a kind of Kung Fu Panda theme with the introduction of monks and of course pandas. And the Thunder King really didn't feel like WoW, in my opinion. It was like it was just not a very good boss in general. It was just like a year-long siege of Orgrimmar, just people running it, just to be able to grind up to War's general standards, and of course to get heirlooms. And number 1. LFR. Now the good points about this is it lets people see the pivotal points in World of Warcraft's story, such as obviously the Siege of Orgrimmar, the downing of the Lich King, the killing of Deathwing, and all that other good shit. Also, they are just really, really easy to try and are extremely fun if you get a good group that aren't full of Mardy bastards. It's also great for getting gear, since the level of the gear requirements are pretty low, but the gear that you get out of it is pretty cool. So the only bad point is it can be a terrible social environment. Like I said before, you're just thrown into a group of strangers that you don't know, and you basically have to follow everybody's rules who's done it before, and it can just turn out to be an absolute arse fucking if you don't know what you are doing. It kind of ruined the element of challenging raids, as some people just doing really low powered raids and just absolutely wrecking them, as they had too good gear. You would really do LFR only to see the mechanics of a boss before you do it on harder difficulties such as Mythic or Heroic. So that's just my opinion on that one. It was a great introduction to the game, but could have been a bit betterly done in my opinion. So that is it for this top 10. If you enjoyed, don't forget to punch the like button, leave a comment down below, and also subscribe. Also, remember to follow me on my Twitter, which is linked down below as always. And also, if you wish to join BBTV and Visa Catalyst, there are links for both of them down below in the description. So that is it for now. Thank you so much for watching. I've been X-Talk4X, and I will see you next time. Goodbye for now.